Hello, CineFam. Please don't mind if I am sweating and shiny. I'm having a great time. For those of you who know me and or recognize me from a different YouTube channel, I'm John Michael, and this is my new YouTube channel that I'm starting as of today. And I decided to start this channel because anyone who knows me knows that I'm like a huge cinephile, movie buff, obsessed with all new films and even television shows and things like that. And I really wanted to create content for just anything in relation to film and entertainment and movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And so I decided to just do a whole dedicated channel to those types of things. This channel is going to be specific to videos like today where I'm listing favorites of, movies and streaming sites or favorites of certain genres, and even like trailer reactions and occasional movie reviews. I'm not very good at reviews because it's hard not to spoil movies. So like, what's the point of sitting down and telling people, oh, it was great because of this, you should watch it, but then like I'm gonna ruin the ending anyways. So yeah, this channel is just gonna be a place where I can come and dump all of my random movie knowledge and television obsessions and hopefully talk to you guys about them if you are also interested in the same things that I am. Or I'm here just to give recommendations because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, never really know what to watch. Like, I'll go on Netflix and there's a million movies, but I will sit there for like 20 minutes because I'm like, well, which one? Hopefully this channel will give you guys some insight on what you should be watching, or if you have watched it, then we can chit chat about it, and if you liked it or if you hated it, and if I liked it and if I hated it, yada yada yada. Just got my chai tea latte. Thank you. Support local business. Just DoorDashed it. I ran out of milk this morning, so I couldn't make my own drink, so I had to improvise. For the first video for this new channel, I decided to do a top 5 to keep it short, but also a top 5 on not so much a genre of film, but more of like a category, because I know this is a specific category that you can, see these films, but it's not like a genre as in like action or comedy or romance, anything like that. Although all of these films kind of do fall under the drama umbrella. They're dramatic, I'm just gonna say that. But today we're gonna do top 5 LGBTQA films that you should watch or should have already watched. If you've already watched one of them, tell me what you think down below, because these films gave me a lot of feels, just a lot of emotions. First off, I'm just gonna say about all 5 of these films, trauma, trauma, and trauma. I don't understand what it is about the queer film community or genre, I guess let's just say it's a genre category, but all of these films were so traumatic and dramatic that it just seems like nobody can have a happy life in these movies. It seems like the only thing they can bank off of is traumatic experiences, which I will say, sadly, queer people have traumatic lives. Like, that's just a fact. Like, they've been through some stuff in the past, in history. Like, that's not a lie, but it's just really sad that all of these films were so like, there was a moment in every film that I was just like, can we catch a break? So yeah, I'm just gonna be listing off of 5 recent films that I watched that I really, really think everyone should watch, especially if you are queer and you're looking for films that you can identify with. I feel like it's always important to have representation, but it's just important to seek out films and art and entertainment that you can identify with and that you see characters that you understand what they're going through. So let's just jump right in. So number 5, this might actually be a film that people might have watched or at least heard of, because it was one that I had heard of, but it's called I Am Michael, and it's with Zachary Quinto and James Franco and Emma Roberts. And this film had been on my list for a while to watch because of those specific actors. I pretty much enjoy anything that James Franco really does that's more of a film, not those like raunchy comedy type things that he's in. Those don't really appeal to me, but I've been a fan of him since like Spider-Man days. This film is based on a true story about this man named Michael who was in a relationship for a really long time with this guy who's played by Zachary Quinto, and Michael is obviously played by James Franco. He just goes through some life stuff and struggles with his faith and with his identity. I'm trying not to give anything away. This is number 5 out of the 5 because I didn't really like it because there are some unlikable characters in the movie. Like for instance, I'm a Zachary Quinto fan. I was obsessed with the show Heroes. This is a side tidbit. Also, if you haven't watched that show, go watch that as well. Not a part of this video, I'm just saying. And he played like the villain on that show for the first couple seasons, and I love villains. And so I've always really enjoyed anything that he's been a part of. That being said, I watched this movie thinking like, oh, I'm gonna vibe with this character that he's playing, whatever. No, I did not. Fraudulent, fake, false. I could not stand him. Good film. It's not as emotional as the other ones, I'll say that much. The other films on this list were very emotional. Number 4, a film called Beach Rats. Beach Rats. It's really hard to say for me for some reason. Synopsis of the story. We're following this young man. I want to say he's probably like 22. I don't remember. This was the first film on this list that I watched. He lives with his family. His dad is sick and he's also struggling to find his identity. He has these like 3 friends and they hang out a lot. You know, they do drugs and they party and they live by the beach. So there's a lot of like, you know, just people hanging out at the beach having a good time. However, this is a great film. I don't want to give any spoilers away, so this is really hard to describe. But essentially, his journey is very identifiable for anyone who has been unsure of who they are or who they want to be, or even rejecting who they think that they are. I will say, trigger warning for anyone who doesn't like watching emotional or violent situations. There is a moment at the end of the film, and like I said, all of these films kind of have their trauma effect going for them, and there is a traumatic sort of scene towards the end. It's not super like in-your-face violence or vulgar, but there's just something that happens. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but it made me sad, and I watched it and I was just like, we're having a good ride this whole time. So yeah, just be warned that at the end there is going to be a quick little scene, and it'll probably break your heart because it did for me. But it was a really good film. The only reason I have it listed at number 4 is because the other 3 just exceeded in other areas. So number 3, it's called A Single Man. I want to say that this film was directed by Tom Ford. Let me think. Okay, yes. So Tom Ford, the designer, this was his very first film as a director that he directed, duh. I will say that him being, you know, a designer and someone who has a really creative, you know, workflow in his brain, you definitely see that in this film. This film follows like a professor at like a community college or something. I don't remember the school. He recently had suffered a loss, and so throughout the film he's kind of contemplating if he wants to still be around. In that time frame, he has interactions with some students, close friends, and strangers that I guess you could say are reassuring him in his worth without knowing that he's contemplating, you know, suicide. Don't worry, no trigger warning. They don't ever show a suicide on screen. That's also not a spoiler for if he does it. I'm not saying if he does or doesn't. I'm just saying if it did happen, it's not on screen. So this film is starring Colin Firth and Julianne Moore, and also a young, wow, I totally lost his name. What is his name? Nicholas Hoult, that's what it is, yes. So the one thing I will say about this film that I caught on to, but I don't know if a lot of other people would, I don't know if I'm just like super observant, I also don't want to sound arrogant and say that I pay attention to things, but through the film, they make it apparent that our lead character is depressed because like I said, he's suffering a loss. The way that they show you his depression is in the vibrancy of the colors. So throughout the film, he's depressed and the colors are kind of dull and matted throughout the film. Then as the film goes on, I realized that anytime he has an interaction with someone that I guess brings him joy or happiness or any sort of interaction that brings him out of his depression momentarily, the colors get really vibrant and really bright and the saturation is turned up, and it was really cool to see that. I really loved that aspect. Very, very fun. Pay attention to that because it'll also help you understand his feelings towards specific people throughout the story and how he's feeling. It was just a really interesting artistic choice, and I think that was because of Tom Ford himself, like I said, being a designer and being someone who lives in a creative, you know, mind space and all of that. Number 2, Kill Your Darlings, which this might be another one that some of you have heard of. So this film has Daniel Radcliffe, which I'm sure a ton of people are a fan of Harry Potter. That's normal, I guess. I don't know. I've never watched Harry Potter. I've never read Harry Potter. So I was never like a Daniel Radcliffe stan because of those movies. I've seen him in a couple of movies. It also stars Dane DeHaan or DeHaan. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. I know of him because of, again, the Spider-Man movies. He was, oh my God, that's so weird. I just realized that James Franco, who I mentioned earlier, was the son of the Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man trilogy. I'm nerding out right now. And Dave, who's in this movie, Kill Your Darlings, was the son of the Green Goblin in the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield. Anyways, moving on. This film was also based off of, I guess, true events. I don't know how true these stories ever really are to what the truth is, so I don't want to say it was inspired by a true story, but it was inspired by real people. So this story follows the young, at the time, author Allen Ginsberg. This is kind of based off of like his college years. That's Daniel Radcliffe's character. And then he meets Dane's character, who is Lucian Carr, who's also like well known because he committed a murder. These two characters are both attending the same university, and then they meet, and Daniel Radcliffe's character, you know, sort of develops certain feelings. The film kind of just explores Daniel Radcliffe's character kind of emerging as his own person, because prior to going to the university, he was taking care of like his sick mom. So he just goes out and, you know, does the typical college thing. It's like a dramatic love story, I guess you would say. I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoy like period pieces. I mean, it's not from like the 1560s or anything. And I also really love, you know, the costume design and set pieces and stuff like that with films like that. Similar to the last movie, A Single Man. Again, like the costumes in that film were amazing, and just all the little details that really give you a cinematic experience. That's all I'm gonna say. Just go watch it. All right, so number one on this list. This film actually just came out last year, I believe. I think this was last year, and it is a foreign film, so I don't know if that's everyone's cup of tea. So this film is a French film. The film is called Été. I could be pronouncing that right. I don't know. I don't speak French, but it's called Été 85 or Été 85. I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm not going to do that. But essentially that translates to the summer of '85. Again, a type of period piece. I don't know what classifies as a period piece, because the 80s still feels like it was, you know, just a few years ago, even though I wasn't alive in the 80s. That was like 40 years ago. That's crazy. I don't know if that classifies as a period piece, but it felt like a period piece to me. Again, I love these movies that take place before a time that I existed, and I get to kind of just indulge into that era. So it's called Summer of '85. We follow this kid. It's like he's like 16 or 17. So one day he goes out sailing by himself on his friend's boat, and then the boat flips over and there's like a storm coming. He's like freaking out. And then this other guy, about the same age as him, sails by and like saves him and takes him back to shore. And so from there they birth this like friendship. And so the first, you know, third of the movie, we're just kind of exploring their friendship and they're having a lot of fun. And then eventually you kind of get the sense that like the two of them are in more of a flirtatious dance. Neither of them want to say anything about it. Probably because of the time, like the time that this took place, this wasn't something that people were super open about. Finally, one day, you know, something connects between the two of them, and then there's like this relationship, you know, that kind of forms, and then all of a sudden, you know, this girl comes into the picture. She causes a rift. We don't like her, but then we end up liking her later on. It's very confusing. Something happens between the boys. I guess you could say a breakup. Very traumatic ending. But I'm just saying, all these films have like really dramatic things going on, and I'm like, can we just be happy? Is there no such thing as a happy ending? I would definitely recommend watching this. It is a foreign film. You're gonna have to read subtitles unless you understand French, which, like, good for you. Also, it's just very cinematically beautiful to look at. Like, obviously their location, gorgeous. The main two actors, gorgeous, stunning. They make you feel ugly while you're watching it. It's great. I love feeling ugly. But I would definitely recommend watching this one above all the other ones. If you're gonna watch one of them, watch this one. I would just say, after you watch it, watch something lighthearted to lift your spirits. All of these movies are just trauma, trauma, trauma. It's fine. I'm totally fine with it. Hopefully next time I will pick some movies that are happier. I don't know if that's possible. I really don't, because like I said, I feel like all the queer movies are sad because they're based on real life experiences. That community just has really sad experiences, but we got to tell the stories. So, well, all right, you guys, that is my list. That is 5 movies that I feel like everyone should watch or be watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear me talk about more movies and television shows and other things that are traumatic. Well, all right, Cinefiends, until next time, bye.